Hello, I'm hoping I'm on the right channel. I think I am. I have two channels, you see. I have Scav Up and I have this. Um, but this is the art channel, so I'm doing this video for this channel because this is an artist pen review, and it's not going to be good because I had this disappointing experience with it. But the sort of caveat that I'm going to put out there is that when you're deciding, when you're buying pens and things like that, when you're deciding what to get, you tend to go by other people's reviews, but you don't just look at one review, do you? You look at lots of different ones. So don't just look at mine because anybody can have a bad experience with the product, but take it into account. So I think it's important to look at people, if they had a great experience with whatever the thing is for artists, and other people might not have liked something. So it depends, and then there are different things suit different people. But this is a functional disappointment that I had with this. And the item, I have a new, as you can see, very wide angle, making everything look like this lens on my webcam. But what's good about my webcam is I can move it. So I can go over here to my really messy, it never gets any cleaner art table. But on my art table, I've got this Ackerman pen, and it is a Ackerman classic pen, and it's billed as being for artists who want to sketch with a pen that can handle India inks. Okay, and this is a big sort of a holy grail of art pens, being able to handle India inks, because um, India ink has a kind of a lacquer in it that dries. It's made of like spider's ankles or something. I remember somebody saying that to me once, and I keep repeating because it's so funny. Spider's ankles. It's got a shellac lacquer style lacquer in it, and this means that for an ordinary fountain pen, it can't handle it properly because the lacquer gums everything up. Um, but the wonderful thing about India ink, and I use it quite a lot, um, is that if I take out my Inktober notebook, which I did, I don't think it was last year, I think it might have been the year before by now, but I did a lot of ink drawings in this. I have mixed inks in this, but if I'm looking at the drawing part of it, um, they're India inks. And the great thing about India inks is that you can come along and do watercolors and things over them, do a wash, a pen and wash style thing, you see. So there's something that every artist absolutely loves using India inks, because you can get a range of all sorts of different things happening in them. And um, I like using Nico G nibs with what I have at the moment for my ink solutions is, apart from this pen, I'm just putting this in context for you, because what I was using was an oblique pen holder, because I was doing calligraphy as well, and I love oblique pen holders for calligraphy. But I use these for drawing as well, and that's not my Nico G nib. That's a brose nib, I think, or a pumpkin nib maybe. But you can use it with calligraphy nibs and interchangeable. And the thing about the Ackerman pen was that it came with three nibs. One of them was my favorite nib, the Nico G, and it had two other nibs with it as well. Neither type I'd used before, I think. But I didn't get that far with this pen, because what happened was this. Here's the pen. It's a nice looking pen, you know. it's got a kind of a non-shiny, non-plasticky feeling plastic. It actually feels like a Bakelite. It's some sort of plastic, but it feels like that old Bakelite plastic. And I have a very wrecked looking nib in it. That's actually the drawing nib. But I had a series of unfortunate events in a way. But here's the way the pen is supposed to work, you see. You unscrew it, and it's got a section here that just pulls out, just pops out, and the ink goes in there. So you eyedrop your India ink in, and then you put it back in to the pen, and just screw the lot together. And the other feature I liked was that the top goes on the other end and makes for a nicely balanced pen. Now I have another pen that I've actually gone back to using since the mishap. It leaks slightly. It's a very old pen now. It's a Rotring art pen. And I didn't like the weight of that so much, and the nib is not interchangeable on that. But, it does a nice drawing. I was using it yesterday, and did a little sepia tone drawing, but it doesn't handle India ink. Well, I've never tried India ink in it, but the thing is that with various parts in pens, the India ink can dry up inside those parts, whereas with this Ackerman pen, it's supposed to come apart so cleanly with very few bits that it facilitates very easy cleaning. Sounds great, doesn't it? So I went off and I went on YouTube and came across some Spanish guy, I think he was Spanish, had a review of this pen on YouTube. And it sold me on the pen. I went, great, that's exactly what I wanted. I was looking for something like that to sketch outside, because I'm perfectly happy with my dip pens when I'm inside sketching. But outside, I don't want to have to carry an ink bottle with me as well as the dip pen. Don't mind carrying the pen, but I didn't want to have to carry an ink bottle. And then the thing is, when you're sketching outside, if you've got an ink bottle, you're having to hold a sketch pad, a pen, and an ink bottle, which is a bit of a balancing act. Now, I'm rethinking that now, but I'll tell you why. So when I got this pen, I read the little piece of paper that comes with it that tells you what to do, and the website has videos and instructions as well, because any new fountain pen is going to take a while to get used to. And this is kind of my first fountain pen that I sprung decent money for. That wasn't a real cheap throwaway fountain pen, because I thought, okay, if it can handle India ink, it's worth paying for. And the shipping was horrendous on it, because it's shipping to me in Ireland from America. So it was 15 quid, 15 euro for the shipping, which is like 3/4 of the price of the actual pen, because the pen was 27, I think, 24 or 27. I think it was 27. But it ended up over 50 quid to buy the pen, right? So the other thing was, it took a month to arrive. Okay, it might as well have come from China, because things from China can take a while to arrive here in some parts of Europe. But it took a long time to arrive. Fine, because you can track it, and once you know it's going to arrive, okay. So I bit the bullet and got it, because I said, okay, if I have this pen, hopefully it'll last me for a lifetime. And I'll take good care of it, and I'll even make a little case for it and everything in a bright colour, so it doesn't get lost in the grass when I'm out, because that can happen with pencils with a dark coloured pen, you see. So this thing told me how to put it together and how to change the nibs in it, because there were these other nibs. And one of the nibs here is the Nico G. Now I put the Nico G in it. No bother putting it in. You have to clean your nibs first. So I cleaned the Nico G nib. The other nib is some sort of, I think they're called rose nibs. Another very fine nib. They're all drawing nibs they give you. Then the one that's in it, the nib that's wrecked, is the copper drawing nib. And this is the Nico G very fine nib that I do all my drawing with normally. I love those nibs. So 3 nibs you get with it. And they just pull in and out of this because it has a plastic underfeed thing that moves in and out. You can push it in slightly to release your nib a little bit and pull it out completely to, reposition nibs, push nibs in, or clean the thing. So there are only 3 parts to this, in other words, and then your nibs. So very little can go wrong. Or can it? Because I brought it out for a field test. I tested it very briefly indoors first. Um, After cleaning the nib, soap and water job, and sometimes you have to clean them twice. So part of the reason I was swapping the nib to try out the one that's stuck in it now, that kind of coppery coloured nib. That one, I was switching that one up because I decided to take out the Nico G nib and re-clean it because I wasn't happy with the flow when I did go out for my sketching session. So I had done this, which was just a page of writing, and was having some flow problems. And then I thought, you know what, give it a while, because sometimes a new pen and a new nib even can take a few minutes to settle down. So give it a little while. So it kept the flow. There's supposed to be a sweet spot, you see, in this pen, that when you slot the nib in, you can push it forward or backwards a little bit to line up with the way the ink feeds down onto the nib. And that when you hit the sweet spot of where the flow is perfect, you'll get perfect flow. Now, I never found a sweet spot on that, even though I kept fiddling around, and even when I was out sketching, I brought a wet tissue with me, as I often do have when I'm using ink dip pens anyway. But they don't have to be repositioned the way this one has to be. So, I didn't want ink all over me when I was out. So with my wet piece of tissue on my hand, I was moving it in a little bit, trying it for a while, moving it out a little bit, trying to hit that sweet spot that they were talking about. But I never got a decent flow out of it. And then I thought, well, the only other thing it could be is that I didn't clean the nib sufficiently, because I've had to clean nibs twice before to get the protective oils off them that they come kind of shipped with sometimes. So I've done that before with Nico G nibs. However, I did get sketches done when I was out, and I got 2 sketches done. And I'm not usually in an angry mood when I'm sketching, but I was getting very impatient with this because getting a flow was a really big problem for me with this pen. And as I say, I haven't had a huge test of it. I just did those 2 drawings, and I didn't find a way to get a good flow, even messing with the nib. And I looked at the nib up close, and it did not appear to be any beading going on with the ink or anything. And the ink was reaching the tip of the nib okay. Beading usually indicates there's some oil left, but I said, okay, when I go back to my little studio, I'll go and I'll clean the nib again, and I'll change up for the other nib. But while I was sketching, I was having to either do this kind of thing to get the ink flow back working every time it sort of dried up, or, that. Um, as often as you would if you were using a dip pen, as often as you would have to dip. So I thought, okay, that's not working well, but I'll give it a chance and go and clean the nib properly again. So took the nib out, put it in a warm, bubbly thing, ready to give it a little scrub with the toothbrush, put this second nib in to try that out after cleaning that and drying it first. pushed it in as you're supposed to be able to do. You can wiggle the under feed first to move it in or out, and then push this in on top of it, find the sweet spot. And I went, okay, it's still sitting far too far out and is nowhere near being in, still isn't, you say, in alignment with that. Usually the thing would have to be much further in. Just wouldn't go any further in. And I said, okay, I'll take the whole nib off, um, move the underfeed around a little bit, and then slot the nib back in. Would it come off? No, it wouldn't come off. So that was only the second nib that I'd slotted in, and that nib wouldn't go in and wouldn't come out. And I persisted and kept trying, and I even got a little jewellery pliers with a towel around it, tried to pull it out. Ended up putting the pen in a jewellery vise, trying to extract the nib from it, or even the nib and feed together. Then, was trying to push it in, push the feed in order to loosen it enough to get the nib off. No, wouldn't come off. So the nib was destroyed on that. So that pen is going back to America. So it took me a month to get it. It was very expensive. I mean, for a European to be buying it. And the nib got stuck on the second nib that I tried. So I've no idea what that nib is like. It's not one I've used before at other dip pens. So even if apparently your man, it's a one-man business, and I don't want to give super negative reviews. I really had to think about whether to do this review or not. Because you don't want to give somebody who has a business that's a one-man business, a small business, a bad review. But at the same time, if it's only glowing reviews of things out there, nobody is talking about their bad experiences, that's not good either. So don't go by just my review if you're thinking about getting this particular pen. I mean, I wanted to like it. It looked lovely. It felt lovely in my hand. I liked the idea. But, I can't use it. Not with the stuck nib, can I? It's unusable. So it has to go back. And I had to get it all, the India ink, really clean in them, because he charges you a tenner if you don't get all the India ink out. And if there's a scratch on it, which there is a scratch on it, there's a scratch on the underfeed, because when you're yanking on something trying to get the thing out where it's stuck, you're going to get a scratch on it. So it would be an extremely expensive mistake if it comes to that, but you have to chalk it up to experience in life. I'm going to pack it all up and send it back to him. I've notified him that I'm sending it back. Even if he offered, which he does sometimes, to replace part of it, he'd have to replace that whole section. I still wouldn't have the confidence in it as a product. That the nib wouldn't get stuck again, because I wasn't doing very much with it when the nib got stuck. I was just trying to put the nib in, and the amount of nibs I've put into holders, not this type of holder, but it basically is the same thing, because it's a slot in job, and these are slot in jobs. You don't have to do like so much repositioning with them, maybe to find a sweet spot or any of that, but it's the same thing. It slots in. So I wasn't being particularly rough with it or anything. You can't be, like with your materials, you can't be rough. So I'd have to chalk that up to experience, wouldn't I? So in the meantime, my solution would be I go back to this pen, which I've taped up because it does leak a bit, because that's really ancient. That pen doesn't have the nib I like in it, but the nib is not bad. It draws, it's a rotring art pen, and it draws all the same thickness. It's not like a Nico G that it's flexible pen and you can get different line thicknesses. That's what I love about them. But it's okay, it's okay for drawing. And I got some beautiful Ackerman ink that I've wanted for a while, called tea leaf brown. And I bought a little injection needle for injecting my ink into the cartridge to refill the cartridge in. It's just a standard cartridge I have in it, but I'm at the end of my brown ink. And so you can inject bottled inks into those. So that's like, I can bring a brown pen out with me when I'm sketching. It's not India ink though, so I won't be doing line and wash things unless I don't mind this running a little bit. It runs orange, and the Jacques Arban isn't India ink either. So I have, this won't handle India ink at all. So I have for my India ink solution, I'll have to find the name of the holder, but people who do any sort of manga stuff will know these already, but I'll find the name of the holder that I bought. So I'm going back to a dip pen solution for outside. And it's a Tachikawa comic pen nib. And what they are is they're a straight nib. They're not suitable for calligraphy. A straight nib isn't really good for calligraphy. These oblique ones are fantastic for calligraphy. And, I use them for stuff like, you see the title of that book there that's done in calligraphy. Um, so I do those with an oblique pen, and there's some in my calligraphy practice. That's a little Nutella bickies that I'm addicted to at the moment, but I actually dedicated that for the Ackerman pen to store it in case I lose it, and wrote my name on it and everything for people to return it. But it turns out I'm returning it now after only one very brief use. Um, but the straight nib that I'm getting, it's a wooden one, and it has one of those little soft grip things at the top. It's very easy to pack in a field bag. The bit that's a bit trickier is, and I'll show you the ink bottles that I have. Um, the trickier end of things is bringing your ink with you, but my solution is going to be, there's Jacques Herbin. Jacques Herbin are a very old ink company, and their inks are really good at a really good price. That's Rouge Grenat. And they have lovely little bottles. And what I could do with the bottle is, I have these clip-on things that are for my oil palettes, right? But they'll clip onto a sketchbook, and they're a little tin pan that you put your terps in, and on the other side, there are two of them. On the other side, you can put your oil painting medium on if you want, like linseed oil or whatever you're using. But that would work for putting one of these in, and then just come along with my dip pen, clip it onto the little sketch pad, and dip when I want to use the dip pen. So that's my solution, low-tech solution, and I don't have any possibility of nibs getting stuck or anything. I didn't even want to particularly change nibs out in the field, because I don't want to be maximizing the inky mess when I'm out in the field and messing around with things. And I brought like little latex gloves with me the last time, specifically for messing, trying to find that sweet spot on that pen. But I would just bring one of those holders with the nib in it, and like that, it's just a push-in nib. But they are very easy to change the nibs on if you want. So that will be my low-tech solution. So for under a tenner, I would have that holder, and I'll just find a way to use the ink bottle while still freeing up my left hand, that I don't have to hold a tiny little bottle of ink, that it's held by being positioned on the edge of, clipped, to the edge of the sketch pad that you're working on. And that'll do it. So, I feel sorry to the business owner for that pen company, really, that I'm giving a bad review of it. But you have to be honest about these things. And I spent a lot of money on it when you take the shipping into account. The actual pen wasn't wildly expensive for a fountain pen, but between the cost and the amount of time it takes to ship to Europe, for somebody in Europe buying one of those pens, it's not great if anything goes wrong. And it did with me very quickly, went very wrong, both in the drawing end of it and the nib end of it, making the thing unusable. The drawing end of it, maybe with another clean, the flow would have improved, maybe. I've had to do that with Nico G nibs before, clean them a couple of times before they start behaving. I had thought I cleaned it very well, but I can't be sure because I never got that nib back in for the second test. And the drawings that I got, if you had to do that with the pen all the time, I wouldn't be interested in using it because your fine muscle coordination is gone from having to flick the thing to get the ink working again, and your focus gone off your drawing. And to interrupt your flow of your drawing every few minutes to do that, it's not for me. So I did say I would, if I got that pen, that I would come on and do a review. So here it is. It's not a good review. So I just hope it has a good resolution and that at least I get my money back. And I do feel sorry for the buyer because they have to pay for shipping as well, you see. Unless he says, no, I'm not giving you the shipping, then I have to chalk it up to just really, really bad experience. But even, as I say, I wouldn't even accept a replacement pen because I just don't trust that mechanism of how you slot it in anymore. And I'd be looking at the pen thinking, will I be able to put this nib in? Will it get stuck? And it's all stress. And then the flow thing, if the flow wasn't, the flow of ink wasn't decent enough to be able to draw properly without interrupting yourself every 2 minutes, it's useless to me, you see. So it has to go. But I got a solution, and you can't worry about everything in life. You just say to yourself, okay, I made a mistake on that one. Sometimes we get art materials. I can usually find something to do with art materials that they don't get wasted. And sometimes I try things out and I don't use them often, but I do use them. I do go back to them eventually. I bought something, it was very cheap, oil pastels, and I very rarely use them. I don't use oil pastels much, but I think it was £7 for a big huge thing in a fancy box and everything. And I was using them the other day, when I was changing, I change mediums a lot. And I was using them the other day happily and saying, yeah, it was for £7, but for 57 quid or 52 maybe it was for the pen, you're sort of going, oh, I have to be real, this is my special pen. And if your special pen isn't special and then it doesn't work at all, well, it's not very special, is it? So it's just a bad experience that you have to chalk up to the rich tapestry of life's experiences, and then you find another way to sort out your problem and move on. And hopefully the just plain old dip solution is I'll just make it work outdoors, and can do my pen and wash outdoorsy things. And you don't really need to have to do that, but I'm looking for my other pen that I use outdoors. I usually use a Japanese office stationery pen when I'm sketching outdoors, but it's different because the line is all the same width, you see, so it gives a different quality to the drawing. Is what that's why you want to be able to use all these different materials outdoors, don't you? So that's it. That's my review. And somebody go look at other people's reviews of the same pen before you decide that, oh, she's saying it's a rubbish pen, don't get it. I had a bad experience. Other people online didn't necessarily have the bad experience, but personally I'm convinced that I didn't put the nib in wrong or force it or anything like that. Like I'm not I don't tend to be an oaf about the way I do things. I do things kind of carefully, and I'm used to working with little things all the time. I mean, I make lace and things, as well, and do tiny little drawings sometimes. So I don't think it was my any oafishness that broke it or anything. It just that nib got stuck, and that's it. It was just unfortunate. So I hope any viewers that saw this are having a wonderful time coming into summer, and I'll see you again sometime. I don't come onto this channel as often as I used to, but if anything else of note happens, I'll turn up again. In the meantime, I'll be over on my Scavop channel for anybody that likes looking at other hobbies and other crafts and things if you want to see what's happening. Bye bye and have a wonderful day. And do look at the other reviews to balance it up so you're not just seeing a bad review, okay? Bye bye.